Hello and welcome to Trade Finance Talks. My name is Deepesh Patel, editor at Trade Finance Global. Today we are at the ITFA and BCR Trade and Investment Forum. Now, the passing of the Electronic Trade Documents Act in 2023 was a very significant milestone for the internationalisation and digitalisation of trade efforts in the UK. The UK government has estimated that the move to digital documents can actually speed up the trade process from 7 days to 10 minutes. And additionally, the ICC has estimated that digitalising trade documents could generate 25 billion in new economic growth by 2024 and free up 224 billion pounds in efficiency savings. On paper, or maybe now on a digital document, the Electronic Trade Documents Act, or the ETDA, is a revolutionary step for the international trade industry. But the reality is that the implementation and adoption are never as easy as it seems. So to learn more about the ETDA and the road towards transitioning the industry, I am truly honoured to welcome Paul Landless, partner and co-head of the technology group at Clifford Chance. Paul, welcome to Trade Finance Talks.
Hi, Deepesh, hi. And ETDA is amazing because I think it's probably the shortest piece of legislation, only 3 pages, but probably, I think, the most important piece of legislation that we have now in the UK statute books, which has got amazing impact.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess that's just to start off with, who are you, where are you from, and what do you do at Clifford Chance?
Yes, I'm a partner at Clifford Chance, head up our fintech practice. I've been very busy with tokenization projects, various types of digital trade finance initiatives, helping various platforms with electronic bills of lading, letters of credit, and just helping banks also with their digital strategies in terms of how they're offering newer solutions to various clients from a technology perspective, and also watching and supporting some of the corporates and their treasury teams in their own digital journey about how are they engaging with platforms and how are they engaging with some of these newer solutions that we're seeing.
Thank you very much, Paul. So in your view, and it's been 8 months since the enactment of the Electronic Trade Documents Act, what are the most significant ways that ETDA will actually transform global trade and finance?
Well, I think you said at the start, speed, Deepesh, it's all about speed. And that sort of reduction in processing time will in turn free up a lot of costs as well. It will add greater efficiencies, greater kind of liquidity in terms of financing opportunity around being able to analyse and assess different types of credits and different types of borrowers. So we're looking at speed, we're looking at efficiency gains, we're looking also at reduced risk, better risk management in terms of dealing with fraud, dealing with other types of credit risks, dealing also with wider ESG risks as well in terms of people's own compliance efforts as well. So there's a risk management aspect as well as a speed issue, efficiency issue, and also sort of financing opportunities. We start to see improved pricing and greater financing access for some of the smaller SME players that have been locked out from wider funding opportunity.
Thank you, Paul, and I know you talked about that on your panel session earlier today. I guess, given your experience in this space, what do you see as the biggest legal and regulatory technical hurdles when transitioning into the acceptance of electronic trade documents?
Well, actually, on the legal side, I think what we're going to see actually is some clarity and support in terms of the first test cases, the first judgments from the courts to sort of really show the legislation in action. So I think at a domestic legal level, we'll start to see a lot more clarity and support with judicial interpretation, but also judicial expertise and learning as well. And then I think more globally, and I think this is the key one, will we see all these different jurisdictions that are each trying to follow and implement this UN model law, this MILITA, this model law for electronic transferable records, will they start to recognise each other almost as sort of sister jurisdictions? Will we start to see interoperable, frictionless trade from a legal perspective in terms of cross-border recognition, and just to reduce that conflicts of law question that's still there, even with the new legislation around what do we do with a Norwegian borrower that's insolvent, dealing with goods in one location, with a bill of lading under English law. You can get quite a mix and match of different jurisdictions and legal regimes, and I think it's going to be key to see over time those different jurisdictions recognise each other cross-border if they've each followed the UN model law. That's the legal stuff, both at a domestic and global level. At a regulatory level, the key thing now is, will we start to see the regulators want the banks to actually use electronic trade documents more and more, to become an operational risk standard, an expectation that to be best in class, to actually make sure that a bank is truly safe and truly sound and has really minimised its operational risk, will regulators start to say, stop using paper. And we want to see you modernise your processes, minimise risk, minimise fraud challenges, look at greater operational efficiency. Will we start to see that regulatory change come through to say, we want you now to look at electronic trade documents more and more?
And do you think they will?
I think they will. That's my prediction to you, Deepesh. We're here next year or the year after. I would not be surprised if you start to see certain banks hearing from regulators that it comes down to the safety and soundness of that bank, that having these types of paper-based or paper-related risks in the business is no longer acceptable. And actually, over time, the regulatory appetite to see banks not address those by using what's available in terms of the very best technologies, the very best platforms, and just wider industry education support for supporting digital trade, will be something that I think that we'll be seeing more and more from various regulators pretty soon, in my mind.
Thank you. I guess with the ETDA and other equivalents of MLETR kind of really setting a precedent all around the world, how important would you say is the standardization of terminology, documents, etc., to actually help facilitate that interoperability?
It's going to be absolutely critical, and that's why, to begin with, we had a UN model law. The expectation is that everybody tries to implement and follow that law as it is. So I think the moment we start to see regulators, but also jurisdictions and different legislative attempts to vary away from that model law, that in turn will create more legal uncertainty. We're trying to reduce that legal uncertainty. So I think having a consistent standard around what is the legislative framework, and also having a consistent standard on, what is a reliable platform, what's a reliable system. A lot of the legislative regimes ultimately depend upon everybody using a platform that is above a hurdle of quality and safety. So different jurisdictions will need to have to converge on a shared view on what is a reliable system, what's a reliable framework. And I think the danger will be different national departures on our view in a reliable system is this, mine is this, I want data to stay here, might have data sovereignty issues that start to localize those data flows. So when we talk about interoperability, it's not only about a legal interoperability in terms of cross-border, it's not only about platforms connecting, it's also about data flows, and making sure there aren't any breaks in those data flows cross-border is going to be key. And I think different operational standards placed on differing banks by differing regulators is not going to help the adoption process over time.
Thank you, Paul. And final question, touching on our previous conversation earlier, which is opportunity.
Yes.
What advice would you give businesses, particularly smaller or mid-market traders, who are really looking to see the opportunity that transitioning over to electronic trade documents and digital collateral can actually provide and help benefit them?
Well, if I think about it, it's really what I would say the three Ps: people, products, and process. And if you look at people, a lot of this is just about digital strategies and digital journeys, and actually any attempt to think about onboarding with one trade finance platform or one EBL system has got to be done in tandem with those people worrying about payments, worrying about the treasury function, thinking about the IT side, and those worrying about compliance and risk management. It's a collective effort and requires a cultural and organisational and relatively holistic total commitment to what is really a digital change initiative, and it's a change management agenda that needs to be done across the organisation, involving different teams. I think, secondly, on products and platforms, there's going to be multitude of platforms coming on over time, and it's going to be a question of will they link with each other, but I think each institution has to choose one or two platforms. Racing after multiple platforms is not going to help. You need to sort of concentrate your efforts and energies around your due diligence around one of those platforms. And in terms of process, moving on from people and platforms, if you're looking at process, I mentioned due diligence. It's about looking at which platform you're going to work with. It's looking also internally about your existing processes, your existing architecture, your existing legacy IT, your existing policies, making sure you're trying to connect with that legacy process. You're not trying to make such a dramatic change on the organisation. And with your due diligence, find a good lawyer. I'd have to end with that one as well.
That was Paul Landless talking about the adoption of the Electronic Trade Documents Act at the ITFA BCR Second Trade and Investment Forum here in London. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Deepesh.